Welcome to the Sales Podcast, Session 60. It's all about the cash flow. Welcome, Sales Podcast listeners, to the 60th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, we've got a great guest, Jay Massey. I met him several weeks ago. I interviewed him several weeks ago, but I actually just got to meet him for the first time at Infusionsoft's Icon conference, which was held just last week in Phoenix. It was a great event. It was great hanging out with Jay a little bit. And as you know, I usually have a joke related to our guest, but today's joke has nothing to do with Jay or real estate or cash flow. I just thought it was kind of funny because I'm from the South. So this three-legged dog walks into a saloon. He looks at the bartender and he says, "I'm looking for the man who shot my paw." You get it? Shot my paw. That's pretty funny right there. But what's not funny is the Sales Podcast Creed, which goes like this. Today is my day. I work diligently towards my goals, which are bigger than me. I bite off more than I can chew because only then will I truly know my current limits, and surpassing them becomes my new goal for today. Through education, accountability partners, and bold, decisive action, today will be better than yesterday, and tomorrow will be better yet. I'm ready to produce. I am producing today. Goodness gracious. Finally back. Had our baby on the 16th of April, little Ava Isabella. After 5 days, I headed to Phoenix for 6 days. My wife was gracious enough to allow me to leave. Thank goodness for teenage drivers and in-laws and cousins and aunts and uncles and great friends in the community from our church that helped. We still have not cooked a meal. This is 2 weeks and 2 days later. What a blessing. But today, I've got 3 podcast interviews scheduled, so be on the lookout for those coming up. Barry Thornton, he was the founder and chief technology officer of a startup I worked for many years, about a decade ago. He also did some work with Monster Cable. Great mind, great engineer, great inventor, and great salesman. He's a great storyteller, so you're going to want to check that out. I'm also interviewing Michael Hyatt later today. I was fortunate enough to meet him about a month ago in San Diego. He's an Infusionsoft user. We went to dinner, and I'm really looking forward to catching up with Michael, spending some one-on-one time with him, and then right after that, interviewing Laurel Langmeyer. So the millionaire maker. I've known Laurel for several years, and she gets things done for sure. If you would, please take one moment, visit thesaleswhisperer.com/love, Love. It's a new little feature using a program called Click to Tweet that will create a redirect and automatically fill in some content that says, hey, I like this podcast, check it out. That'll be a big help to help me spread the word. So again, it's thesaleswhisperer.com/love. If you would do that for me, I would be most appreciative. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to fellow SoCal resident and entrepreneur, author, inspiration, Jay Massey. Jay Massey of Cashflow Diary, welcome to the hot seat on the Sales Podcast. How are you?
I love hot seats. This is good. I'm actually having lots of fun enjoying the Southern California weather.
Well, you screwed up by interviewing me first because now I can do whatever I want, and you can't get me back.
Okay. So
you've been warned.
It's all good. Hey, you can do magic with editing. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, no editing. We want to hear you cry. This is like Oprah.
Bring it.
All right, man. So you've got cashflowdiary.com, but you've got an interesting story. Would you mind sharing that interesting story with our listeners? And then we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty on how you make things, how you made it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. And in fact, I think it's imperative that everyone understand, because oftentimes when they go, oh, it's a real estate guy, or, ooh, business this, it must have always been easy. And I share this so that individuals know where we started from, and hopefully to give, one or two people the idea that, your story isn't over and you can still make it happen.
Right.
A few short years ago, my wife and I, we experienced a whole bunch of challenges is what we'll call them. I was previously a financial planner, And I was self-employed. I thought things were fine. My wife, however, when she's pregnant, she has a condition known as hyperemesis. You probably have never heard of it. Most people haven't. It just simply means, though, she could not eat or drink while pregnant. That's what it means. And then one day, because I was very stressed out, I went to go play volleyball. And I jumped, and I landed on a guy's head and punctured my lung. Now, I was born with asthma, and I developed a condition known as pleurisy. So I've got a hole in my lung, and I can't breathe normally, and then I have a drug interaction, which means that I could not walk and talk simultaneously without fainting. So it was crazy, right? And as a self-employed financial planner, you got a choice. I'm like, how do I go to work if I can't walk and talk? Or do I go to my wife's bedside? What do I do? How do I earn money? Because I couldn't put time in. I didn't have that. I couldn't trade time for dollars because it was just not possible. We started selling our personal possessions online on eBay. And that only lasts until your garage is empty, and then you sell your friend's stuff, and then that's gone, and then you're like, okay, what am I going to do? It was around that time that a friend of mine said, hey, I got a solution for you. And, at this point, you're like, well, anything is better than what I'm not doing now. So what do you got? And he's like, you should become a real estate investor. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a dog turn their head to the sideways and look at you funny. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I'm like, don't really. I'm like, in my head, I'm going, real estate investors are supposed to have credit and money. My credit score is 398 and I can't put $75 together. You want me to provide housing for people and I'm getting kicked out of my own. Help me understand how this makes sense. Mm-hmm. And undaunted, he did exactly that. And that began the beginning of the transformation. It was a number of intense months of study, learning lots of, techniques and things. And, we were able to purchase our first property using none of our own money or credit. And that's over in San Bernardino. Still have that one today. And then we just started buying and selling a whole bunch more with a process called wholesaling. And in that first 6 months, we had created a 6-figure income, which had never happened, to us before. And it was kind of crazy. And then, the next year we just kept doing more and more. And today we have well over 300 units in many different states. We got commercial property. We're helping to build a resort internationally now. And it's just been this different ride where I get to invest a lot of time helping other people now go through their same, transformation and process. It's been loads of fun.
So when did you buy your first property?
June 18th, 2008.
So things hadn't collapsed then yet, right?
Well, no, they were, and then that's the thing. It was in the midst of the collapse.
Okay.
So in that particular instance, you could say that I just didn't know any better. So I was like, cool. It looked like it was on sale to me. That's what it looked like. It was like, well, it's cheap now, so I'm supposed to buy, right? When you go to the grocery store, you use coupons and you wait for things to go on sale, then you buy. So I'm like, let's figure this thing out. And that's one of the chief things that I find that is key is understanding that where there's chaos, there is cash flow. And that's what I learned in a marketplace and in an environment where there was chaos. So that's what I look for. I look for chaos and then you go solve the chaos and then you get paid for it.
Well, you can get rich in my house.
A little bit of chaos there. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Are you saying I should be richer than Bill Gates, man?
Yeah, I'm saying, well, you do have a number of children, and and again, I get that. There's nothing but chaos every morning, right? And it repeats itself. It's like, didn't we just do this yesterday? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wrote a blog post today, part of my weekly whisper. I'm reading Mansfield's Book of Manly Men. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
No, that's a new one.
Wow, what a good book! But he talks about, if you want to create a culture, you have to take action. Mm-hmm. Do rather than study to create a culture. And so. And one of my quotes in leading up to that was Rothschild's, buy when there's blood in the street, even if it's your own blood, right?
Right. Exactly. We did that very well.
So, why did you have to switch careers though? Was it because you could do the research in real estate like on your own time and stuff rather than because you versus talking to people, I guess? It was more research-based?
Well, it wasn't. It's more that there was more creativity that's allowed. I mean, don't get me wrong. Financial planning has its place, yet the SEC, the NESD, there's lots of rules, and there's nothing. It's just limiting on your business strategy. And it wasn't that I had to change. It's just that there was no opportunity. There was no further opportunity. So when you're a financial planner, there's an option. You have what is known as assets under management.
Yep.
And unfortunately, at that time, I did that because I would go to a financial institution. They said, yeah, sure, we'll gladly take you if you have at least $2 million of assets under management. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, if I had $2 million of assets under management in my book, I wouldn't be sitting at your desk saying, hey, I need a job.
Right.
And so, but the other side of that equation was, okay, if you go apply for a job, they're like, sure, we can start you at like, $9 an hour. And I'm like, I don't know where in California $9 an hour works, but it ain't in my house.
Right.
So I was stuck in this really weird place, not a college graduate, total, just like, hey, I got to eat, but I don't know how I'm going to feed my family. And this just came up as a solution. And that's the thing. I wasn't, quote unquote, looking to become a real estate investor. I was looking to eat.
Right.
And my friend said, I got a solution for you. I said, okay, if it'll help me eat, that sounds like a plan. What is it? And it just happened to be real estate investing.
So was it was basically back against the wall kind of marketing, right?
Yes. No, there was no big budget. There was no marketing budget. I would do things, for example, this was I did a lot of this, like from 10 p.m. to maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, I would walk, because the good thing about California is there are lots of people, so lots of people to do business with. One of the bad things is there's tons of traffic, which also correlates to there's no parking. And so at night, people have to park typically on the street unless because we just don't have room for it. Mm-hmm. So I would print up flyers and I'd walk streets listening to audiobooks and start placing flyers in people's window. And by the time they woke up in the morning on the way to their job, they would have my flyer with an 800 number saying call. Well, that was like, paper, or it was very inexpensive. And then I walked. Right. So I delivered it. So that's what I would do. So I'd get back home about 2, 3 in the morning. Then I'd wake up at around, because the calls would start coming in, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning before people went to work. And then we would set up a time to get with them and start meeting with them and talking to them about what we could do and how we could work with them to either help them learn how to do real estate or get involved in real estate investing in some way. And I would just do that over and over and over and over again. And I learned lots of in-person strategies, to in-person low-cost strategies to go out there and build a business one person at a time. I learned lots of referral strategies. These are the things that I not because I was trying to maximize revenue. It was, if I don't do this, we don't eat.
Right.
So you figure out a way to do it. And I try to tell people, naturally, I'm introverted and shy. However, that was going to have me starve, so I got over it.
Did you ever get in trouble or run against any bad guys, 2 in the morning? That's kind of a weird time to be passing out flyers.
Well, yeah, it is definitely not the most conducive time. It's not that. There are a couple of times where I was like, why is this car following me type of stuff, for sure. Right. There were a couple of times where the police were probably like, why is that guy walking down the street passing out flyers? What is he doing? But nothing overtly was, really happened per se. But there were a number of times where I was definitely nervous because I was like, because I didn't know what was happening. And whenever that happened, I'd start praying and literally I would just go back to my car and leave that area and go somewhere else. Because, again, it wasn't go home. I had to go somewhere else because I had to eat. And and if I didn't generate leads, if I didn't figure out how to do that, I was never going to eat.
So what were you selling? What were they calling you for?
At the time, they were calling either to learn how to become better real estate investors, because I was working with a real estate education company to help them expand. Okay. Or they were learning how to, at the time, it was, let me buy your house, because I have a very simple script, and I teach everybody this. This is the best script on the planet, no matter what you're looking for. You just always ask people, hey, have you ever considered getting involved in real estate investing? And they're going to answer that question. And then you're going to follow that up with a really why. Those two questions. Kid you not. Really why. Those two words. And then it reveals lots of things. And you can learn to listen and find out, are they looking to sell a house? Are they looking to buy houses? Or are they looking to learn how to do it? And those would be the three categories I started sorting people down to figure out, okay, which one is this person? And whatever they said is what I then therefore responded to. Right. And I eventually I started using Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow 101 game. So nearly everybody just got invited to come play Cashflow with me. That way they got to know me. That was part of that. It's still part of my process today. You come play Cashflow. And then from there, we figure out how we can help you get started. What is it that we can help you with? And we sit down one-on-one and go from there. And I've been doing that now for a number of years.
Well, the thing I love there is before you were an expert, you associated yourself with experts.
Right.
And then you became the lead generation engine. So you didn't have to be the expert. You just had to find qualified people, bring them to the table, and you get paid.
Yeah, and that's by far if anyone's looking to get started in anything, that's definitely something I recommend, because otherwise you've got to work both sides of the table, especially if you've never sold anything. You're like, I got to learn how to find qualified leads and I got to create a product to sell. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of responsibility and a lot of work. Take it one step at a time. It's enough to learn to go from sitting in dark corners, not wanting to talk to people, to now, hey, I'm in business, which means I've got to talk to strangers. And mom said, don't talk to strangers. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm. I wrote a report a while back. It's one of my lead magnets. It's called "The Number One Reason Your Sales Are Down, Your Stress Is Up, and You're Running on Empty." And it's the whole thing we've been lied to, going back to John Wayne and the Lone Ranger and everything else. Right. That, hey, I'm tough. I'm just going to have my trusty steed and my rifle, and I'm going to blaze a trail. But it's like, look, those were fictional characters.
Exactly.
And John Wayne's dead, and the Lone Ranger had Tonto. I mean, don't go try to do this alone.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the quickest way to failure for me and for the company is to try to do that. I tell people wealth is a team sport, and in the one thing that I always want people to do inside the company is to do only what you do best. And if you don't do that best, please don't do it. Let me know, and we'll find someone if we can who's really good at it, who really enjoys it. And because if anyone knows me, they know I cannot stand paperwork. And God bless you if you're one of those people who actually like, I can't wait to cross every I and dot every T. And if you play that back, you'll get what I just said. But let those people do that, and everybody plays towards their strength. And if that's one thing that I think that's one of our greatest strengths is that we let each person do what they do best.
Yeah, amen. Because I keep looking for things I can give away for someone else to do.
Right? The faster you can find them, the better.
My gosh. I mean, that's when you can really cut loose, let that creativity flow. And, when you're doing what you're good at, A, it doesn't feel like work. B, you're going to be much faster at it. Your clients and the recipients are going to benefit more. It's just better.
Agreed. 1,000%. People make fun of me sometimes when I'm speaking or whatever, and I tell them, look, strive to be the dumbest person in the room. Yep. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm not saying you're dumb. I'm saying in the subject matter that you're talking about, you want your team to know more than you do. When you show up to a meeting, like I think it was in Chet Holmes' book, the only thing you should have to bring is a notebook and the ability to make a decision. That's it. I don't want to have all the creative ideas. That's too much responsibility and too much work.
Yep.
That's the reason you're here. You're here I need your input to help me guide our product, our service, what we're doing, so that we can go benefit more people. And if you're not the type of person who can do that, then you probably should play on a different team.
Yep. So you're passing out flyers, you're generating leads for this company. Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to become who you are now, like doing your own thing, and it seems like you own the whole enchilada now, right?
Yeah, right. Well, and it's a process because there comes a point at which you have to decide what it is that you're looking to eventually build. You got to begin with the end in mind, as they say.
Yep.
And what really kicked it off for me was because at first I was just doing real estate, minding my own business, whatnot. And then some guy approached me at a networking event, and he goes, can you teach me everything you know? And at this point, what I was doing is I was just, because I was, somewhat bored, and I was just helping people for free because it's like, why not? Sure, I'll help you. And then it got to be too many people. And then my thought process was, I know, if I charge them money, they'll leave me alone. I was wrong. And then it became, and then I started seeing the results people were generating and seeing them buy their first, duplexes and their first 10-unit and 12-unit buildings. And I was like, I have an ability to literally affect lives and help people. This is fun. And then it just became something completely different now to where, I started going around and speaking and being invited places and doing all these things to help other people do it. And now it becomes part of everything that we do, because when we go places, now I get introduced to new people who either say, hey, can you teach me? Can you help us do it? We'd like to do it with you, which is cool. And it's fun. And then my wife likes to eat food in very different places. She's all the foodie that you could ever imagine, which is, so it gets to be, it's just become a part of our entire lifestyle, where we're going this weekend. And it's just fun to help people in a genuine way with something that you've been gifted with. And that's how I feel about it today.
Well, we have a lot in common because my wife, she makes the best reservations I've ever seen. Fantastic.
Yeah, right. In 20 seconds or less?
I don't think she listens to my podcast. This might be the last one if she listens to this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, mine doesn't listen either. It's all good. I understand. It's like they get us all the time. Why on earth would they bother listening for more,
I tell my wife, we have all kind of places we can eat. We can eat in the living room. We can eat on the patio.
Yeah.
We can eat in a car.
Totally.
What's wrong with that?
It's totally. We got a backyard, right?
It's all about the company. It's like, you get to hang out with me.
Yeah, isn't that, you just won the grand prize. I know,
Fritos on a peanut butter and jelly. What? Come on.
Hey, that's right. And for those of you going, what? Try it first.
Try it.
Try it first. Then say, then tell us what you think about it.
All right. So how did you teach yourself or build up this coaching and mastermind? Because that's, I work with a lot of people pushing them towards that. No matter the industry, I'm working with a client now. He owns Madden Brothers Mulch. And he was just on a podcast not too long ago. But, if you can create a mastermind out of selling mulch, you can create a mastermind out of anything, right? And he doesn't back away from it. He's like, it's mulch, it's firewood, it's boring, but he's built a thriving business. But I'm always working with people. When we're talking about Infusionsoft or whatever they're looking at getting, I'm like, okay, fine. You sell firewood, you sell mulch, you sell chiropractic services. Have you ever thought about selling information on how you run your chiropractic business? And they're like, how would I do that? So how did you make that transition from being a doer to being a teacher?
Yeah. That same gentleman, as I mentioned, said, he said, can you teach me everything you know? And then by this point, because I had helped so many people for free, I was like, okay, I'll do it. And in my head, I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to come up with a really large number, and he's going to say no. Well, he didn't. And I was like, okay. And then that kept happening. And so I was like, okay. And then it got to the point to where I was like, there were still more people than there was me, and then not everyone could meet the high price point for the individual time. So I was like, so now what do I do? Well, I have one of the greatest CFOs on the planet, and she's really good at helping me think through things. And the answer came group. And then I've got a friend of mine. He was like, yeah, you should do group. And I was like, okay, group it is. And then it was like, okay, cool, we'll do group. And then it turned out that I had more fun in the group, because one of the downsides, in my opinion, of one-on-one is that if the person, if for whatever reason they're having challenges getting results, they need someone who's on their level to see that what I just said works. One of the upsides of group is that the people are in different spots and they hear the same participant having great success with the exact same information, which then starts what Tim Ferriss calls eustress as opposed to distress. It's like, oh my God, this person, they've been participating just like me. And wow, they just, I do one on raising private capital. They're like, wow, it's only been a few weeks and he's raised $100,000. And how did that happen? And the other person's like, yeah, he's been listening just like I was, and they got a deal done. And then I started having more fun in the groups. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And it just turned out that they were more highly leveraged, and I can serve and help more people and bring the price point down in that regard. And it was like, cool, right. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. With today's technology, now it just became a natural outpouring because I wanted to do more. Because again, there's one of me and there's millions of people, billions. Right. It's like, wow, it was the only way to do it. But what really made the shift is I was having a conversation with Blair Singer, he's the Rich Dad advisor. And he said to me, he was like, Jay, the thing you need to focus on. I was like, when someone from, Rich Dad is talking to you, you listen. And he goes, you need to focus on having a one-to-many strategy. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know what he meant. And I'm like, okay, great. And it just set me off on trying to find and perfect one-to-many strategies. So we now do lots of webinars. Like you just mentioned, Infusionsoft. We're just brand new to Infusionsoft, but I'm enjoying every bit of it. And because it's just like, I cannot believe such power is inside this thing. And learning to leverage every nook and every cranny and everything that it can do to explode. Our database is exploding exploding in terms of number of new entries and all this stuff that's beginning to happen because we focused on the one-to-many strategy. And it's actually created more time in my schedule. So even though we're helping more people, and I'm using less physical hours to do it, especially once the campaigns and everything is created or the mastermind groups are running. It's been lots of fun.
Right. So you threw out a high price where you thought the guy would say no. Then he said yes.
Yeah.
And based on my own experience, well, I got to imagine you were still a little nervous. Like, what the hell am I going to give this guy? And, how do I not let him down?
Right.
Right. So what did you go through? Walk us through, how you got that first client and kept him happy and grew it from there.
Oh, I just focused on over delivering, since I was like, okay, how do I make sure, literally, how do I make sure not only does he get what he paid for, but then more, and most importantly, wants more. And that's what's been funny is that even that first guy who paid the top, what was my top price then, has come back and bought other information from us since then. And I was just like, okay, cool. I achieved all of the objectives. And I was very, very careful to just make sure that he understood what was going to happen, what I could deliver. And I was very clear about what I couldn't deliver, right. And made sure that he understood that this is what this is what it should look like at the end. And I was, again, very clear with him. Look, you're the first guy I've ever done this with, but here we go. And if you're game, I'm game. And he was game. And, he ended up with a decent sized apartment building. He's been raising capital now. He's got all kinds of good things happening to him because he was willing to take action and let my guidance and help him go through that process, which was transformational. Now, I will say two things. When he said as soon as he said yes, I had two thoughts. One, I was like, dang it, I should have asked for more. And then two, the second thought was, okay, now how do I deliver on this? Because I had both of those thoughts because I had never done that before. But if anyone knows me, I practice what you could call a FAR strategy. It's fire, aim, ready. And that's kind of me. That's just the way I'm wired. It's what we do. We're the best implementers. We know. We implement fast. We take action. That's what we're known to do. And I use a phrase, move at the speed of instruction. And that's exactly what happens. And so that's what we started doing. It's just like, okay, cool. We're doing this. Go. And we develop our tools on the way.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So as a percentage, how much more are you charging now than you did? Because you thought you were charging a lot.
Yeah.
I bet from that time to now, you've tripled or even gone 10x.
Right.
So where would you say you are now?
Well, and that's the thing. That's what Infusionsoft is beginning to help me to do, is because I'm learning to serve. I'm doing two things simultaneously. While the top end is going up because Infusionsoft helps me deliver to the masses who do not wish or want or the individual one-on-one attention. I can meet all of their needs and exceed everything that they need through automated content delivery at a much lower price, and therefore which frees up my time and allows me to also increase the value of what it is that I'm actually able to give, because I can spend more quality direct time with people. So yeah, right now we're in the process right now. The first level is about to, I don't know, is that 40% increase? Mm-hmm. And then we are actually creating we're just creating a brand new level.
Right.
Instead of increasing what was existing, we're just creating a brand new one, because it's like we can now.
Right.
And it's just like, and that's what I meant by the fun because I think about the change that has happened to myself and my wife. And by no means are we done. And that's one of the things that I tell all my clients. I was like, look, I'm not one of those people where it's like, I used to do this. You got to understand, I'm still in the middle of it. At any given time, I could be negotiating on a multi-unit deal, many millions of dollars, and you might get to, quote unquote, participate vicariously through the discussion, et cetera, simply because I'm still in the middle of it. We're working to get to 1,000 units in the U.S. and 1 million square feet. That's what we're working towards. And that may happen at any given moment. If you're okay with that, just understand that, the guy you're learning from is still in the middle of doing it too. So you're learning exactly what I do to make it work real time.
Right.
And which, for some people helps them.
That's so important, what you said earlier about the groups. I always tell people, when you start any type of group, name it your silver group. And people are like, it's the only one. It's like, look, trust me. Yeah. You're going to have a gold, and you're going to have a platinum.
Right.
And you may have to create a silver under that just to, because I'm rolling that out. I'm rolling out a little $35 a month program just to get more people and to help those that don't have more money, right, but want to learn. It's like we talked about earlier, the whole Dan Kennedy model. He's always talked about that ascension ladder. You want to have multiple levels that people can get more and more access to you, but they pay more and more money.
Right. And that's what I'm learning, because I've just been, for all intents and purposes, under the radar, just doing my own thing. Now we've got a book and we're trying to figure out, well, okay, how do you do this whole thing? I keep hearing this name, by the way, Dan Kennedy. I probably should go look him up, because I'm like, everybody talks about this guy. Who is he? So, I say that to give people a reference of, this is how new I am to these things. But that just because you're new and you don't know something doesn't mean you can't start. We're definitely in this thing and started, and we figure it out as we go.
Right. And so all of your coaching and whatnot, is it all around real estate investing, or do you do just entrepreneur business coaching?
It's pretty much entrepreneur business coaching. Most people find out about real estate or find out about us through the whole real estate. However, I've, people who do apps, that's been popular, which I think is interesting because the cool thing about real estate is that the business structure or business in general is very, very similar. They just use different language. An online business has, revenue, just like a rental property does. Rental properties got revenue too, but we call it rent. It's the same language or it's the same meaning, just different words. And once you learn how to translate, you're like, oh, okay, cool. I know what that means and I know what this is. And team building is still a part of any and all businesses. And, you're still looking for character. More than because you can train skill, you can't really train character. Hopefully mama taught them. Mm-hmm. So that process is very, very similar. Getting your access to capital is probably a little bit different if, depending on if you're trying to raise capital for your business. I've got some clients that are working on movie projects, where that's like their thing. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it. It's still a business providing a product or service for a profit. Those things are all there. So, the genre or type of business I find is relatively a moot point because you got to have a sales department, got to market somehow. You got to do these things. Mm-hmm. And we have to come up with, systems and processes to make all that stuff happen.
But what do you say, though, when somebody's talking with you and they're like, Jay, I'm considering your program, but you know what? My business is different.
Different? Please enlighten me on the differences. That's probably what I'm actually going to say, because when it comes to my sales quote unquote process is very question based because they're the ones with the answers anyway. And if you don't, so it's something you're saying that because there's something I haven't addressed that I don't know that I needed to address. And you're the only one who can tell me what that is. So if you tell me what it is that's making you feel that way, and let's find out, is it really different? And if so, then okay, I totally understand. So I'm likely going to respond with a question. Okay, cool. I can totally understand. I wouldn't want to move forward either if it was going to be of no value either. Right. Could you tell me why you might feel that way? What's making you feel that? And then we're going to have this conversation about what that looks like. And then I'm likely going to have a conversation about the education process, about how it's the same thing, just different language.
Yeah. And you have to be willing to let somebody walk, huh?
Oh, yeah. All that. I have no problem with that because, I have no problem with that anymore because, I wanted to help people. That's the one thing my CFO is always telling me. She's like, Jay, you can't help people at that price. You can't do it. You can't do it. I'm like, but why not? They need it. And I'm like, which is one of the things that I'm enjoying about Infusionsoft is that it does allow me, like I think about myself, if I was trying to help myself from a few years ago, I couldn't afford me today. So I'm like, well, what can we do so that I could afford me and do something, help me get started. And that's what's beginning to happen as we learn how to design a group coaching program, is as we learn how to, and I like that advice about the whole silver thing. I sure didn't do that. But that would have been really, really good advice. But yeah, start with the silver program and figure out those details. But at the same time, it's still very, very similar, learning about continuity products is the same thing. It's like having a rental property. It's a continuity source of income. You just provide a different service in order to earn the money every 30 days. There's so many similarities through all kinds of business that, inside of a few minutes of talking to somebody, I can probably pinpoint some issues, easily help them solve a few challenges. And most of the challenges have to do with personal development, relationship management anyway.
Right. So where do you direct them to overcome that?
Books. I don't necessarily have any particular magic resource. Obviously, in my opinion, the Bible's the best book on personal development ever written. And then you've got all the other books that say something like that from in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And what ends up happening is, we've got to learn to do what we say we're going to do. And that's usually the crux of most of the issues. Just somebody didn't do what they said they were going to do. Right. Don't know who, but it's somebody. And then how you learn to respond to that and increasing your emotional intelligence so that you have the ability to respond to emergency situations, because emergency situations are going to happen. There's no such thing as trying to reverse engineer them out, or I'm not going to start my business until all the lights are green. Well, okay. Good luck with that.
Good luck with that.
It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
You will never launch. All right, so give us a real estate tip, man. What's going on in this economy? Have we topped out? Are we going back down? Do you buy in different parts of the country? I assume you are.
Yeah.
What can our listeners glean a little bit of real estate investing nuggets from you?
Here's the thing. As I said earlier, where there's chaos, there's cash flow. Mm-hmm. So, and there's this thing that I do when I'm speaking. I'll take a newspaper, the local newspaper, any local newspaper. You can scan the headlines, and if you are trained to recognize chaos as cash flow, you'll see opportunity. So whether the market's going up or down is inconsequential to the knowledgeable investor. I honestly don't care. The only question is how am I going to play the game? And that's what the newspaper, that's what these directional indicators can tell you. So, for example, and it's a contraindication in a sense. So let's just talk about the baby boomers for a second. So you want to find some quick ways to be able to earn and create a business. Find a way to serve the baby boomers using real estate. So, for example, the baby boomers currently are beginning to age. When they age, they want to go live somewhere. They may want to live somewhere in a nice resort internationally, or they may want to go to a retirement place locally, or they just may start to travel some more. So maybe now is the time to start marketing and building a travel business, or maybe resort vacation or expatriate type of situations where because they're living on a fixed income. So real estate's the good thing about real estate, it's very trend driven, and it's slow moving, meaning it's not like the stock market where inside of a day you could have really big fluctuations. You've got time, which is good. So it's on your side. Mm-hmm. And learning to analyze and recognize what those trends mean is what makes the difference. So it's a process that I call DIP. You use data to information to interpretation process. You do all those things. So that you know what to do and when to do it. For example, in many, I don't know, wherever you are listening to me from right now, when you're driving around, look around the freeways. Is there construction happening? In some cases, there may be more construction than others. So you're probably seeing new housing starts. You're probably seeing these things. Well, if residential housing is going up, the question becomes, what about commercial real estate? Is that also being built right now? Because there's probably, again, a contraindicator there. It's like where one is going up, the other may be going down. So I'm always looking and examining the marketplace for chaos. Here's another one that's not very popular, but it works quite well. Look for places where companies are laying off people. If they're laying off people, that's chaos. So what is the chaos? What is the problem? Well, maybe there are a few more people where, they're going to move to a cheaper location. They're going to downsize their house, which gives you inventory to purchase. Some of those people are going to be turned or forced into becoming renters. So, they may not be able to own, but now they can rent. And you're still at least providing them a clean, safe, affordable housing place to stay. So you've got to learn to examine and look at your marketplace for the bad things. And which is cool is that the newspaper provides those for free every day.
You mean people still read the newspaper?
Well, okay, so maybe it's Drudge Report or Yahoo or, something of that nature, but you get my point. There were these things that they came to your house and you actually picked them up off the front lawn and it was called a newspaper. But, now you probably get text message alerts, but you get the point.
All right, fantastic. Well, where can people find you? Where's your place on the web?
We are at the web right now. For example, I just put together a book that details my entire business model from how do you get started and have the right mindset all the way to raising private capital to do your deals. You can find that over at cashflowdiary.com/book. Now, for those of you listening who may not be in front of a computer, feel free to send a text message to 949-682-3565 with the keyword book. And what I'll do is I'll send you a link directly so that you have the ability to go ahead and access the page. You'll see a quick video. You can even download a few sample chapters for absolutely no cost so that you can get to know a little bit more about who I am and what we're doing and how we can possibly help you on your journey to becoming a bigger, better, badder investor as well.
Very cool. Okay, give me that number again, 949-682
3565.
3565. All right. And what was your dip earlier? Data to interpretation?
Data. Yes, it's data to information to interpretation process. DIP.
Oh, you got two eyes in there. You can't trick me.
I did. I know, right? I told you I wasn't a college graduate. So I can spell things any way I want to.
This is my world. I'm just trying to live in it.
Yeah, you're right. That's how it works. It's like I can make stuff up. It's dip. I know it doesn't spell right, but it tells right. It's dip, you know. And I call it taking a dip in the news. And you can do that when you understand the process, and you'll end up generating leads. And here's another quick one. And it's not something people are thinking about right now, but I'm almost certain in a few years, you'll start to see these late night commercials about 1995. And you could do this where when we go back to the baby boomers, at some point, all of us are not checking out of here alive. So at some point, there's going to be an uptick in things like mortuaries and that particular business. There has to be.
Right.
And for those who are buying them today and holding them, they're probably going to experience that uptick. Again, I'm just looking at trends. I'm not trying to prop it off death. I'm just trying to solve a problem. The problem is at some point we all need a place to live, work, play, or lay. And when you think about it, there's so much opportunity out there when you start saying, because, if you're the person that's going around, oh, somebody should do something about that. And if you're saying that to yourself, that you're talking about is the very idea, genesis of a good business. And you go be the one to do something about it.
Yep, I know. Funny how that works, huh?
Yes, the best business ideas are the things we're probably complaining about.
It's like, wow, there was money sitting right there.
Why didn't they tell me? There was, there should have been a sign. There is a sign. It's right in front of you.
I was waiting for Congress to pass a law and my mayor to give me the keys to the city and announce it was okay for me to go do that.
Yeah, and even after you do it, they're still not going to pass a law or give you the key to the city, but that's okay.
Craziness.
Go do it anyway.
Go do it anyway. All right. Jay Massey of cashflowdiary.com, cashflowdiary.com/book. I appreciate you sharing your words of wisdom.
Thank you. Looking forward to doing it as many times as you let me.
All right, man. Have a great day.
All right. Talk to you later.
From no food, no money, no credit, no health, to 6 figures in 6 months. How's that for a story? Do you hear what he did? He would pass out flyers at night, 10 p.m. to 2 or 3 a.m. to make the phones ring. So what's holding you back? Sometimes we might be embarrassed. Maybe things we've encountered setbacks. I graduated from the Air Force Academy and Texas A&M back to back, prestigious universities. And within 6 months of leaving the service, I was on unemployment. My second son, Matthew, was born when I was on unemployment. So, it's a tough pill to swallow sometimes. But, hey, God gives us these challenges for a reason. We do not always know why they are. But continue moving forward with optimism, with confidence as much as you can. Right? Sometimes it's tough. But you know what? Standing still is not going to help you at all. So seek out individuals with greater knowledge and experience than you. Always strive to be the dumbest one in the room, right? And from there, you will continue to improve, and things will get better. Go back and re-listen to this podcast again. Jay's got some great gems in there. But I really love that story of him working that hard at night to make the phone ring. But then he got good at closing the sale, right? And then securing referrals. He was not shy about asking for the order. And I'm going to start spending more time. I'm working on a program called The Art of the Close. I did my sales training boot camp at InfusionCon last week. Was well received, got some great testimonials. I haven't given that exact class in 7 years. I've spent a lot of time on blogging and SEO and automating things, and it's been a great ride. But I'm seeing not enough people focus or people gloss over actually making the sale. So be on the lookout for that. If you want to check out my 30-day sales growth, it's made just for that. It teaches what I cover in what I teach in closing the sale, but doing it in a manner that is not sleazy, that does not make you feel dirty at the end of the day. But The Art of the Close is going to be a live program I'm going to teach. It'll be virtual, but it'll be live. So you get more interaction and Q&A from me. So be on the lookout for that. And as I mentioned at the start of the show, if you would please just type in your phone real quick or your browser, thesaleswhisperer.com/love, and send out a little Twitter love. It's all automated. All you got to do is hit click and submit, and you're done. But as always, I thank you for listening, and remember to sell different.